Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new EA Zoom show. It's called Astro Coffee, and it's with me, Rav Chahal, and my fellow colleague and friend, Sue Hillyard. Hi, Sue.
Hi, it's great to be here. I love this concept.
Yeah, thank you for joining me on this concept.
Oh,
And as the title states, it's going to be a little bit more chilled out, not very too technically focused. And like I explained to Sue, I really wanted this to be an opportunity to get to know the people that teach on EA Zoom, the astrologers that you listen to on a weekly or daily basis. And so it's up close and personal with your favorite astrologers. And today, because it's the first show, I thought it'd be great if Sue and I had just a conversation between us about our journey to astrology and generally just for you to get to know us a little bit more. And then going forward, we will be interviewing our fellow colleagues and astrologers so you can get to know them a bit more personally as well. So, Sue, I'm glad you like the concept.
yes, it's fun.
Yeah. Like I said, I wanted to be a little bit more lighthearted and wanted to take part more on these EU Zoom channels. And I know I have done a couple of in my own talks with on EA Zoom, but they got a little bit serious. And I do have a light-hearted side, though I am a Capricorn moon, which you'll see shortly. So let's just kick this off, Sue. So what we're
Okay.
going to do, first of all, is we do have some key questions that we will ask one another. But as it's all to do with astrology, we thought it'd be great to show you our astrology charts and kind of see how it links out individually and both collectively with me and Sue. Sue, I'm going to let you start off, you
Okay.
know,
With my
deciphering
with
the
my
chart.
with my Virgo observations.
We're
So,
both strong Virgos.
yeah, obviously. And we were interestingly born a day apart and a Saturn cycle apart, which makes it really interesting. And because of
Yeah,
that, because we were born a day apart, our planetary nodes are almost in the same place,
yeah,
just slightly off. Um, one interesting observation I made is that we both have the asteroid Karma conjunct the north node of Mercury, and for me, that's also conjunct Venus, and for Rav, it's conjunct Jupiter.
yeah.
So that's a kind of a connection that pulls us together, and that hopefully that'll lend to the lightheartedness of our exchange. We can
When you
play.
say, yeah, when you told me that earlier, asteroid Karma on Jupiter, straight away my analytical brain just went, oh, so I have karma around natural law, teaching, um, creativity when it links to Leo in the 12th house for me. I'm like, yeah, that kind of makes sense in this lifetime. It really does in terms of my story and how I came to astrology. But yeah, for yourself, you said it's on Neptune.
It's on Venus in the
Oh,
second
sorry,
house.
Venus.
So
Value, self-worth.
yeah,
A
and
lot of,
and relating.
I was just about to say a lot of work to do with what you're attracting to what you're giving out, right?
Yeah, good point. Yes. And
And your
it's
seventh house is Capricorn ruled. So there's that double
yeah,
Saturn karma. And I know the audience haven't won't have seen this, but that plaque that you showed me earlier
up right there.
up there, I saw that. That's brilliant. I saw that. And that's by karma,
Signed by karma. Yes.
signed by karma.
That's my
Yeah.
that's my me- that's my guiding message, I have to say, is that there's karma in everything.
hmm
Everything
This
we
whole
do creates karma, or draws
uh,
karma, or however you look at it. It's all karma
yeah,
created.
100% agree with you. And funny you say that. I say funny, I don't mean it as in literally haha, but I essentially came to astrology during my Saturn return. my first Saturn return. I distinctly recall going through a very kind of confusing time where the question was, why is this happening to me? And it wasn't just one thing, it was literally three things together, in my life. And then EA walked into my life. Well, Jeffrey's book, Pluto, the Evolutionary Journey of the Soul, walked into my life. But it was through my during my Saturn return. And that really makes a lot of sense in terms of my soul kind of saying, right, now's the time to do the work, you know, opening
That's,
those doors.
yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah. What about yourself, Sue? How did you come to astrology?
Well, once upon a time, a long, long time ago, at my first nodal return, actually, I
Okay.
read a book called, all right, I had to write it down. Yoga, Youth, and Reincarnation. It was a long time ago. And I actually just bought the book again because I thought I might want to read it again. But
What was that again? Yoga,
yo,
Youth, and Reincarnation.
yes, and it was written
Who's you?
by Jess Stearn, who was a New York Times columnist. And
Right.
he originally started out to debunk astrology, and he ended up becoming a believer in yoga, and or actually he wanted to kind of debunk the yoga, but along the
Mm,
way he ended up becoming a follower of yoga, and also incorporated with that was some astrology and reincarnation, and all of
mm.
the concepts. I mean, that book just, I mean, really spoke to me. And so I started doing yoga at that time, and I also started collecting astrology books. Oh, I meant to pull out my first astrology book was called, I think, the A to Z Horoscope Maker and Delineator, and that book is like this thick,
Oh,
and
wow.
it's old. I mean, when I bought it 50 years ago or more, it was already old, but that that is kind of the difference between, what we have available now. We have the internet to
Yeah.
give us, astrology, but at that time I had to comb used bookstores
Mm.
for astrology books, and so it was kind of hit or miss. Whatever I found was what I learned from.
Well, that's probably the universe's way of also showing you we will give you the books that you need, you
Yeah.
know?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
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 Oh, wow. So in terms of, because you mentioned books, apart from astrology books, has there been any key books that have helped you in your life?
I don't read too many books besides astrology books, quite honestly.
That's
Um,
okay.
but I probably one other book, it was called Yoga for Women, that I found about that same time. And the author was Nancy Phelan. And
Right.
I had that book, and I started practicing all of the asanas, and just really loved yoga. And
Mm.
I have been in and out of it, for years. But it, 15 years ago, I became certified as a yoga teacher, and taught yoga for a while. Um, but yeah, that book just really, really changed my life. So
I
how
was
about
about
you?
to say, well, on that note of yoga, I was about to ask you, can you teach me yoga? We might have to do a Zoom. You're a certified yoga teacher. Just even the basics, because I do like yoga, but I can't say I practice it regularly. I know I should, but my Virgo analytical mind um can practically sit still for about 10 minutes without something, your mind kind of having so many thoughts going through. And I know they say let the thoughts come and let them flow. But the moments I have been able to like to sit down and meditate, I do get to a point where it's so blissful. You're like, I could just sit here, just, just being in that present moment. So I know there's a magic behind yoga, and I should do it more regularly. And I will. I'm going to be reaching out to you for some training tips,
Well,
Sue.
here I'll start with the basics. Yoga is about breathing,
Mm,
and it's about focusing on your breathing. I've even seen Jeffrey talk about, breathing, focusing on breathing, you know, and you can even say if it helps to distract you from the thoughts. I know that I'm
mm.
breathing in. I know that I'm breathing out.
Yeah. I read that one, two, focus on the one in the inhale, two on the exhale.
That's
Yeah.
another way.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of ways to go about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So nice. So you asked me which books, apart from astrology books, I've always have three books that I tell everybody that they should read in their lifetime. So the first one is the Autobiography of a Yogi.
Okay.
I think I know it's classed as one of the top spiritual books, but honestly, it's such an amazing read. You start to see this just the magic in life and the synchronicities and how there's more than what we can physically see. That's the door that it opened up for me. And incidentally, I actually had read that before. I actually read it at the same time as Pluto, the Evolutionary Journey of the Soul. Like
Interesting.
I never just read one book. It depends what mood I'm in and
Right.
what I feel like reading. And I'm a bookworm. And so I actually, if I think back, I was reading both of them at the same time and learned so much from each of them books. Only later did I realize that Shri Yukteswar was the guru of Paramahansa Yogananda, who was the guru that came into Jeffrey's dream where he channeled the Pluto, the Evolution Journey of the Soul, that whole material. So the synchronicities, when I think back, I think, wow, okay, that book did change my life. But the other two books I think everybody should read. One of them is The Celestine Prophecy
Oh
by
yeah.
James Redfield. Absolutely love that book. Again, talking about energies, frequencies, and following signs, and just, trusting that you're being guided. And then the third one is, and there's a theme here, of course, you'll be able to see. The third one is The Alchemist by Paolo Coelho.
Oh, okay.
I absolutely love that book. It's so short, it's a quick read. I've probably read it about 10 times because every time I've picked it up, there's a different message that comes through. And it's very much about one's purpose and being guided. And it's such a great story, and it's actually heartwarming when you read it. So if anyone hasn't read those books, I would give those a go. Yeah.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's the magic about any book that is uh important to you is that you can pick it up again and see something totally different. And you get a new message that maybe
Yeah.
even builds on the old one.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
It's that experience that you have. You could be reading, it's like when you've even conversations that you have with friends, you could have a conversation that's similar to, last year, but your outlook, your perception of something is totally different. And it's that kind of inner knowing that you're evolving, you're moving through and you're learning something different. And but yeah, even with actually the astrology books, and I'm sure you'd agree with me, Sue, even rereading the ones that I've already read, and I do read all of the EA ones a number of times because you pick up a different nuance. Something else comes through. You kind of think, okay, this is the way I should look at this. You know, to be honest, I'm learning astrology every day. I can't say just because I'm now certified as an evolutionary astrologer, I'm done. I know everything. Hell no. I feel like a student every single time. And I think that's a good thing. because
Oh,
nothing is set in stone.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've said, when I learn something every day, and
Mm.
when I stop learning is probably the day after I die.
Yeah, because we've got karma to resolve when we cross over, right? Mine is in the 12th house.
Well, I
No,
don't think karma ever goes away, does it?
actually, no, it doesn't. And do you know what? When you talk about the word karma, a lot of people assume karma means a bad, oh my God, like, I shouldn't have done that. But there's good karma. And I think that's where
Absolutely.
people get confused. There's also good karma because nothing is ever bad or good. It just is. And it's learning to move through whatever experiences we have without judgment, actually. There's your, Capricorn piece with karma. Just it's
Yeah.
lessons. We're all learning, we're all growing, we're all evolving. And we go through experiences for our own evolution and the collective evolution, actually. It's not just we're not just individual, we're all connected and on a deeper level. And it's having that awareness, it's being conscious. It's actually being able to be conscious of whatever you're experiencing in order to move through it.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I think when you meet the situation and deal with it, on a level playing ground, or however you want to look at it, when you deal with it as it is, and
Yeah.
that's how I think that's how you create, well, good karma, is by doing,
Well,
you know doing what you're supposed to do.
on that note, Sue,
Supposed to
we
do.
both have, yeah, we both have at this time, talking about transits and work, we both have our Saturn opposition.
That we do.
And Saturn, yeah, and Saturn, not that I was wanting to talk about astrology too much, but just to give people, the audience, a glimpse of what goes on in real time. Saturn went retrograde on Saturday at 19 degrees of Pisces, and your Pisces, so your Virgo, your Saturn is 21 degrees Virgo, and my Saturn is 16 degrees Virgo. So Pisces has Saturn and Pisces did go over my natal Saturn in terms of opposition, but it's going to retrograde back over. And I've always had three hits of Saturn in my life, always. So that's always been a lot of fun. How have you found the energies right now in terms, because yours is going through, so third house, ninth house opposition, right?
Yes. Um, well, it's interesting that you ask, because it seems I've also had numerous uh, Saturn transits that have been three passes, but
Mm.
this time it came up to almost oppose my Saturn and then is backing off. However, this time, and you had the same phenomenon. Neptune opposed our Saturn
Mm.
first, and to
It
me
did.
that was kind of dissolving some of the Saturn um, misconceptions that I had, shall we say. We were
Yeah.
talking before we started recording, and Saturn for me is right between my sun and my south node. And by
Yeah.
progression, Saturn moved over my south node. And so you were saying that on an EA, what was it you said, on an EA?
So on an EA level, the soul has come into this incarnation with because that phase natally is a balsamic phase. So you've come into this incarnation closing a chapter to do with the Saturn Virgo lessons. And in your this lifetime, in terms of the living as Sue, it's gone into a new phase. So it's like the soul is closing a chapter, but also beginning a new chapter. And it's that energy that you find in a balsamic phase that can feel like also the new phase. So, yes, there's a new kind of structure being built. the way the way you will work through, um, because it's a third house, it's going to do a lot with the mercurial mental energies and information that you gather. Though you're going to interact with new information, there's still old information coming through that needs to be worked through. So
Yes.
it's sort of like past information will come. So, like you said, you were naturally drawn to yoga, astrology, you were intrigued with. I would actually say you've worked with astrology before. You've got an eighth house Jupiter, right? Your Jupiter's
Yes.
in Pisces in the eighth house, and your Uranus is in the 12th house in Cancer. I do feel you've had astrology knowledge from previous lifetimes. But in this lifetimes, it may not have been so much about you working as an astrologer, but using that knowledge to assist people in some way, but in your own unique way.
Yes. Thank you.
So it's like,
That's very
yeah,
true. That's
yeah,
very true. And I feel like I don't feel like I'm a the I consider myself more a research astrologer,
yes,
whereas well, my midheaven is Aries and it's ruled by my
Aries.
Scorpio moon. And so to me, that's about what I do is dig deep, and it's conjunct Pallas. So I dig deep and find the patterns, and and then present them to other astrologers to talk about them. That's my favorite thing to do is to, I find these things and I go, oh wow, but what does it mean? And so then I love presenting it to other people and having them, talk about it for a while.
Yeah. Which you've done beautifully, honestly. Like
Oh,
even with the EA Zooms, and I've only ever known Sue in terms of since I've been out into the world, since I qualified and decided that I need to put myself out there. That's my own soul life challenge. And but I've interacted with you and you've made, coming on to EA Zooms, just how you help everybody, you've just made it so effortless.
oh,
And yeah, and you honestly do, Sue, to me feel like family, and I'm pretty sure we've had past lives together.
I think you're
Um,
right. Most likely, yes.
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 So you do it beautifully, and honestly, and everyone, I'm pretty sure would say this. We couldn't do any of this without you.
Oh, well,
But I
thank
know
you.
that you,
But I have to say, we couldn't do any of it without
yeah,
Linda Johnson, who started this all. And
yeah.
this is kind of how I became EA adjacent. I've been an astrologer, an aspiring astrologer, like I said, since my first nodal return. So that's a really long time. And I've gone in spurts learning it, but um, about, I think it was I want to say 2015. My life had been really sad. I had lost a lot of animals, and including my soul dog, and I needed to do something to snap out of my grief and my depression. And so I went on the EA message board and I saw a post from Linda Johnson saying, does anybody want to form a group to talk about, I think it was either a Mercury retrograde or a Mars retrograde. We did a number of them. And I said, yes, sign me up. I love this. So that was the beginning of EA Zoom meetings, actually, was a
Mhm.
bunch of us getting together and just talking about how um, how the transits or how a retrograde cycle was affecting us. And like I said, it started out with just a small group of us, and then that small group of us, Linda had the vision of, okay, well, let's start presenting to each other. So we started
Mm.
making little presentations to each other, and then at some point she started recording it, and it just blossomed from there,
Mm.
and went on. And yeah, so I kind of
Was it
digressed a little.
2015? No, 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 you did not. 2015, because I'll be very honest, because that's still through my learning. Because, with evolutionary astrology, especially, it's very self-directed learning. You get the coursework material and you get, the transcripts and stuff, but everything else is at your own pace, which is great. You can do it at your own pace, you can learn at your own kind of rhythm as well.
Yes.
And for me, those videos that came through EA Zoom, the original, they were so useful in helping me integrate the information that I was reading in the books and in the coursework DVDs and stuff, and just getting other people's perspectives, because I with all the EA teachers, whether it was Kristen, Dava, Ari, Rose, just listening to them, getting their perspective, then going back and stuff. And it's a free resource. So if any aspiring astrologers out there that want to, dive further into, especially evolutionary astrology, this EA Zooms, honestly, it's all done. It's not like we're making money out of this. This is done for the love of astrology, for the love of EA. And honestly, it was a godsend. And I sometimes do still go back, listen to some of the videos, just to reintegrate the information and the material. And it's something that really helped me be able to actually in 20 when did I did start the coursework? 2021, sat down and I remember thinking, okay, I can do this. I'll tell you now, Sue, one piece of coursework used to take me about 3 months. I'm not even kidding. My analytical Virgo mind. And
I
if I ever showed you the first draft to the last draft, it was literally from this to concise. And sometimes I did have to ask myself, did I write this? Because I felt like I got into the zone and you ended up just looking at the chart and just analyzing. And if anybody out there is thinking, I will never get this, trust me, you will. If I can do this, anybody can do this. Because what I mean is, I didn't know anything about astrology before EA. What I mean is, I knew basics, but I didn't know the intricate phasal relationships, aspects, how, a certain house is conditioned and the planet affecting it with the aspects, just that kind of synthesis. And the material that the EA Zoom channel has is just, it's enormous. And I
it
think yeah,
it is, and as I said, I'm EA adjacent, which means
yeah,
that I have other influences, and we also are governed by, the North Node of Pluto in Cancer of inclusion, and we do include other points of view and other, types of astrologers. We've had
yeah,
some really interesting talks given by non-EA astrologers,
yeah,
which Linda used to designate, which were which. Since Robin and I took over, we don't do that so much, but a good 75 or 80% of the
yeah,
talks are EA astrologers.
yeah.
But we do allow other points of view.
Yeah,
I
because
mean, I do have the North Node of Pluto on my ascendant, so the inclusion has to be part of my life.
it has to be part of your physical reality, of course. Where's my North Node of Pluto?
It's the same,
11th
probably
house.
the same place, right there.
No, because it's Pluto, it's going to be generational. So mine is
Yeah,
actually, oh, it's the
jump
10th
your,
house.
near your Mars.
This is how often I look at my own chart.
Mhm.
You'd think I'd be looking at it regularly, going around what's happening. Trust me, I
Well,
wish I wish life happened like that.
and every once in a while I'll sit down and I'll ask my guides to show me something that I didn't know about my chart. And
Oh wow.
and and every once in a while I go, oh wow, I hadn't thought of it that way.
Isn't it amazing when you do that?
Yeah.
I haven't done that in a while, but I do tend to when I'm going to sleep, and that's my whole 12th house emphasis is especially Jupiter really like just into the 12th house for me. I do when I go to sleep. Sometimes I will be like, okay, show me X, Y, Z. I'm confused about this, that, and the other. Show me. It might not be the same night, but tends to be 2 or 3 nights later, maybe, because when I've kind of let go. Because if I'm expecting it, I think my guides are just like, no,
I,
it's not coming.
I concur. And do you suppose that's our Virgo Ex
Yeah.
expect expectations?
And also my Capricorn moon kind of being, a bit like it has to be practical. If I don't physically dream it or physically see it, experience it, it's not real for me.
Right. And so my Gemini moon wants to hear it. You know,
Ah,
and I do sometimes hear actual words, but there are other ways, my
oh,
Jupiter and
talking
Pisces,
about
dreams, I
yeah,
things like that.
but talking about hearing stuff, I have to admit, there has been a few handful of times in my life, I'm not a spring chicken either, that I physically heard a message and like physically like talking. And yeah, you just reminded me of that. It's not often, but I've realized it's at certain junctures in my life where it was needed. Maybe I was going off course, and I needed to be guided back. And I feel those kind of messages come through stronger at those points. Do you know what? If I was into astrology back in the day, I would have written down the dates and stuff because now I do write down the dates to see what's happening because there is always something happening. And recently, I'll give you an example. I asked Sue to add the asteroid of Magdalena, which is in the chart at, for me, 16 degrees of Cancer, which is exactly to the degree conjunct my natal Mars in Cancer in the 10th house. I've been doing a lot of research at the minute to do with the energies, the feminine energies, the goddess related energies, but kind of linking it to Mary Magdalene. And there was just the other day, Sue had a while back sent me a screenshot of every single asteroid linked to my chart. So
Well,
I have
about
it saved
40
in,
of them,
yeah,
as
and
many
I
as I
have it
could put
saved.
in.
I've literally got it saved in my favorites, and I went into and I quickly found it. I was literally just doing this. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Found it, and then I added it on my own chart, and I was amazed at the fact that wow, okay, it's right next to my Mars, which is our conscious intentions in this incarnation. And interestingly enough, Sue, the transiting the Magdalene asteroid is at oh God, I wrote it down earlier and I've completely forgotten. But long story short, there's an aspect it's directly conjunct. So you're trying to find it from me.
Yeah.
I've completely forgotten. My mind's just gone. I wrote it down earlier. I don't know where I wrote it down, but it's literally linking to, I believe my what is it? My North Node of Magdalene? I can't even remember now. But there's a link. I can see astrologically there's a link that it was going to come into my consciousness at this time. And it just
12
is
degrees
as much like
Taurus, 19.
12
Well, it's conjunct the transiting Mars.
it's actually conjunct my natal Chiron. That's what it is
Oh,
in the eighth
oh,
house.
okay.
That's what it was. So I'm starting to learn about the power that Mary Magdalene had in how it was distorted, etc. But that's my own research. It's just personal interest. And the amount of books I found to do with Mary Magdalene. There was a book that I just recently finished called The Power of Mary Magdalene. And it just blew me away. And yeah, so you talk about certain points and certain information coming through. And I find that astrologically, there's always a link. You can always link it back to a transit, an aspect to your chart. And it's all for the personal evolution of the soul. And I can see what it's trying to say for myself, because for me, I have a skip step of Neptune in the third house in Sagittarius. And that's my voice being very likely kind of repressed in previous incarnations and not being able to follow natural law or my natural beliefs, etc. in past lifetimes. And in this lifetime, it's been difficult for me to put myself on the stage, right? Sue knows this. I haven't willingly said, "Oh, let me do an EA Zoom talk." I've had to push myself at times to do it. And, even recently when I was thinking, I'd like to contribute something back to EA Zoom and stuff. And I was like, and this is what I came up with this, but it felt effortless when I came up with this idea. And the amount of people that have responded saying they'd love to be a part of it, it actually warmed my heart. I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, who will want to do this? Virgo
Right.
analytical. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm thrilled too. I think it's something that that we can keep doing for a while, and
Yeah.
we can all get to know each other
Yeah.
and have our community, and we can all get um yeah, good background of who we all are.
Who we all are. But it's like what I mentioned, because we're going to have Pluto going back into Aquarius next year again after it's done its final retrograde in Capricorn. And it is about breaking structures that have repressed us and connecting to like-minded people, our tribe. We get, in the patriarchal world, we've been told that it's all to do with blood and family and, that kind of environment. But what if that's not what everyone's been born with, the perfect family or had the right, you know, well, I say right conditions. We've all had the conditions we've needed to evolve. But what I mean is being able to connect with people that we want to connect with, our tribe. And I feel that's where the world is headed, especially with Pluto going into Aquarius over the next 20 years. And it's not about being isolated, and it's about seeing that we're all one. We're all part of this human this human journey. As much as it's individual, it's also collective.
Well said. Well said. And and we're about to have 20 years of Pluto in
Yeah.
Aquarius, so it will be interesting to see what communities and connections come out of it. And
Yeah.
astrology, because
Yeah.
astrology is connected to Uranus and Aquarius, so it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here.
Well, interesting though, Pluto will transit the south node of Neptune.
Oh, good point.
I believe the south node of Neptune is about 8 or 9 degrees of Aquarius.
Yeah, 10,
10. Yeah.
10 for you. I think it's about 10 for me. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. 10 degrees Aquarius.
It doesn't change much. So that'll be
Oh,
well, a third of the way in.
yeah. So collectively, we will all be experiencing that.
Mm.
So and for me, I feel that's going to link back to, and I've been doing a lot of research on this as well, back to kind of the Atlantean energies, Atlantis, if anyone believes in that, kind of reawakening to the
I
power.
do. You know me. I that's one of the that's one of the asteroids that I love. So sorry
Where
for
is
interrupting.
Atlantis for you? That's okay. Where is Atlantis for you? Because I don't think I
I
do
don't
have it.
have
I
it
should.
on here, but it's right down here,
No, I'm intrigued. Mine
between my
is.
south node and Mercury, the ruler of my south node, and my IC.
I'm not. Now I'm intrigued as to where mine is. Where is my pictures?
It looks like a box with headphones.
Yes. Oh, I have. But it's like, when did you send me that? You know what? It's when you start taking so many pictures.
Oh, it's been maybe a year
Found
ago.
it.
I don't know. Let's see if I can.
I have a feeling that for me, with headphones, found it 26 degrees Cancer.
Okay.
So it's opposing my natal moon. I guess I was probably in Atlantis too at some point. That
Yeah.
opposition, so I'm throwing off. So I'm throwing off probably conditioning from that time with Capricorn, linking it to
Hmm.
Cancer, getting back to the matriarchal energies and so 26 degrees Cancer. So right next to my North Node of Saturn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a
Double signature there.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it getting back to the giving, sharing, and inclusion.
Yeah. Sharing, care, and inclusion. Yes, definitely.
Sharing, caring,
Definitely.
and inclusion, beside
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
opposition to, exclusion, which is something that we seem to be doing a lot of these days.
Yes.
We need
But
a
don't they say that you have to go through the dark night of the soul to get to the light?
right.
So, and I feel it's very much that kind of energy right now in the world where,
And we go from extremes, from one extreme to another
yes,
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
which we have to experience, I guess, in order to evolve. It's not always going to be all roses and, you know, peaceful music, etc.
So
I was just looking at the questions. I was thinking,
yeah, I
what?
was too. Um, I see one that we could ask, and that is, what do you do in your spare time?
Going to rabbit holes, researching all these theories.
Me too.
I don't know if you know, Sue, I have a master's in research.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, yes, I'd say all your Virgo supports that, Masters.
I think what we should tell the audience right now is Sue and I will eventually have a book that we will co-write together. Very likely.
All the
But
answers.
but no, what do I like to do in my spare time? Like I said, I am a bookworm. I actually do work part-time in a bookshop in London, which I love.
How perfect.
But yeah, it is perfect for me. Found it a bit later in my life, but the perfect time. Apart from that, I do love just finding out about currently it's about lost civilizations in history, and it's all to do with, when I first did classical civilization, and this was back when I was 18 that I did this course about Greek mythology, Greek history, and I realized that it was a great in future. It was a stepping stone for me understanding mythology and astrology, the goddesses, the asteroids. So I feel like for me, it's always been a part of my life building up to astrology when astrology came into my life. But so I love finding out about histories and stuff. And right now I'm into the whole Egyptian theories and conspiracy theories and all to do with Giza, the pyramids, all the star systems that are which are aligned to Giza. So I'm doing a lot of that, and I'm actually traveling to Egypt again in February,
Oh,
touch
wow.
wood, hopefully. And it is very much, I'm planning to do a tour actually, trying to see if a group of people want to come along. It's going to be very much linked to um it's going to be more like a spiritual
Ooh.
understanding that the pyramids, the spiritual connection of all the way to do. It's going to probably start off from Alexandria, going down the spine of the Nile. That is the plan. That's what I'm planning at the minute. So that's what I'm doing in my spare time is traveling. Like, recently I went to the Vatican just a few days ago because I've never been before to see
To
the
do
whole
your
link of
Magdalena
Christianity and
research.
kinda, yeah, kinda. She
And
was
did you,
nowhere in the Vatican, unfortunately, of
about the
course.
Pope? Was the Pope there?
Probably. Well, we
But you
couldn't
didn't
get
get
into St. Peter's Basilica because it was closed off for a special mass, which was a little bit disappointing. But the Vatican is an interesting place. That's all I'm going to say on
yeah,
that.
I'll bet.
Um, but yeah, but before that, just a couple of weeks ago, I was lucky enough to be in Glastonbury for the summer solstice,
Wow.
um,
You
which
do a
was
lot of traveling.
so I'm in England. It's not far.
Yeah.
England is tiny, and
That's
part of Europe.
yeah.
Well, no longer we're not part of Europe, but you know what I mean. it's I can get on a flight. I got into Rome for what, 2 hours on the aeroplane. Where do you get to in America from yours if in 2 hours?
In 2 hours, California, which is where I live.
Oh,
But
yes.
that's driving. I mean, a flight. I mean, I can get to Arizona. I can get to Northern California. I can get to Seattle or Portland.
Yeah.
And it's I joke a little bit. I mean, it's you know, four. I think it's 4 or 5 hours across the country. So
Right. But
it,
I know you, because honestly, Sue, my parents live in the north of England, quite near Scotland. It's often cheaper for me to get a flight to Italy or Spain than it is to go visit my parents.
mm,
So do you see? So sometimes it's like, okay, I'll just go. We'll go and see this place that we haven't seen, or we want to do this that we haven't done before. Even driving, in England, it's easy. But Glastonbury was beautiful. If no one's been, honestly, and this is where I found out more about, the whole energy of Mary Magdalene is there as well, in terms of, the Chalice Well, the Glastonbury tour that we walked. It was beautiful. But I feel like at this point in my life, I'm just being pulled a little bit more into seeing the connections with, like I said to you, the Astro, the goddess energy is coming forward for me quite strongly. And an interesting fact is when I first had an EA reading with Deva did my first reading before I decided to become an astrologer. I remember
us.
her telling me,
Good start.
sorry,
Good start.
had to. I read the books and was like, I need a reading. I need a reading. And that's why I reached out. And yeah, so she had actually mentioned something to do with my Mars in Cancer in the 10th house, and to do with, she said something about working with women in something to do with along those lines. And it was really a long time ago. And I remember the time thinking that doesn't really make sense to me, but okay. But the reading was so powerful that I was like, I need to learn this material. But it's now that it makes a lot more sense because of what I've learned over the last sort of 15 odd years, and understanding the deeper connections that we have that's been repressed in society. But yeah, so that's what I'm doing in my spare time. But it's, for me, my spare time is still about learning. Does that make sense? And of course, look at my Virgo planets.
Well, and
I
I
have
was just going to
Neptune.
say that Mars is conjunct the north. What is it? The north node of Jupiter as well. Talk about learning and traveling and leading tours.
Well, funnily, I'll be doing it with I am a twin, by the way. So I'll be doing it with my twin sister. And incidentally, there's only one difference between us from the whole chart is that Jupiter. Hers is at the end of the 11th house.
Oh, interesting. So hers is just
Yeah.
same chart, only Jupiter over.
Yeah. Oh, actually, and also the deacons. I know a lot of people don't. I use deacons in astrology to get a deeper understanding, especially if you work with twins, because otherwise, you think you've got the exact same chart, you must have the same life.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. We've led very different lives, very similar but very different. But what is similar with us is our passion for understanding this whole journey of life. So yeah, so we will very likely be doing that as a group tour, because she's actually a natural palmist. She can read palms.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's her spiritual work. I went towards astrology.
Yeah, but you still, it doesn't matter the path you take. There's lots of different. What is it Jordan said? There's more than one way to get to Denny's. which
What is
which
that? Is that a restaurant?
Denny's is a restaurant. It's a restaurant chain in the United States, and
Okay.
so there's any route that you take gets you to Denny's.
Oh, okay. So so basically there's so many of them. Doesn't matter what
Well,
route you take.
there's that. Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah. That's how I saw that.
Yes. Yeah, that's how I see it too. And also, there's well, another saying is more than one way to skin a cat, which is a horrible thing to
Yeah, I don't
say.
really want to imagine that, but yeah, I get the analogy.
Yeah. But yeah, there's so many different ways to do things that,
Yeah.
it,
So what about
and
yourself, Sue? I was gonna say, oh, yeah,
so same
spare
question.
time.
What do I do in my
Same
spare
question.
time?
Yeah.
Well, I also go down in rabbit holes, and they're almost always uh, astrology related. And
Yeah.
I too have, well, you say, I had to chuckle when you say you wished you had been into astrology sooner because you would have written down the time when certain things happened. Well, when I first got into astrology, we didn't have computers to show us the chart. So if we wanted to look at a chart, we had to draw up a chart. And I have all
Wow.
these pieces of paper that I've saved that are just kind of eyeballing what a chart would look like, where all the planets would fall, the angles, and where the you know uh, planets would fall in what house and stuff like that. But now do I'm well, I'm actually beginning, I have begun writing a book about my animals that relates to what I was talking about when how I got into the EA Zoom meetings. At that time, I also, I mean, almost probably, I mean, it's the same time frame within a couple of months. I started doing a an art class that was printmaking, and I it ended up being the first class I took. Uh, I did a print of the top of my dog's head, who had just passed. I mean, it had been probably less than 2 months. So one of my favorite things about him was his ears. Uh, they had dots on them. They were soft and they were expressive. And looking down on them, I just gave me joy. And I had taken a number of pictures of them. And so I had this one picture that I used to model my print after, and that was my first print. I did another one of a cat that I had recently lost, and so I started joking that it was my um, uh, memorials to dead animals art, and so and then since then, you know, fast forward 10 years, I have gotten some distance from the grief and have started writing a book about the the journey of having, I had at one point I had 13 cats and the dog who was just wonderful with cats. I was socializing cats. And so I would get a litter of kittens, and he was the dog socializer. I was the people socializer. And so this book is about Spencer, the dog, and his cats.
Nice.
So I've
Oh, I
been,
like that.
yeah, so that's what I've been working on. And gardening. I also do gardening. That's
Yeah.
one of my lifetime passions. And I realized recently that I needed to get back to it because I felt really good when I had my hands in the soil, my feet, digging in the soil, and then watching things grow. And that I attribute to my Vesta in Taurus. And
Yeah,
it has been activated recently with Uranus going over it.
of
And that
course.
was probably about the time that I thought, I got to get back to this.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm finding recently that I need to connect more with nature. I mean,
Yes.
to be around nature and just just be because it was just being in Glastonbury, just that whole just scenery, green, just the environment, and then coming back into the city, you can
It's
feel the
jarring.
difference. Mm. And
Yeah.
I feel like right now, like I'm so nasally blocked. And I feel like it just kind of just came on, even from Rome. Just, Rome is so like congested as well. It was quite hot. That whole city vibe. And though in the Vatican, when you go in, there's a huge garden which is beautiful. I could have just spent most of the day just sat there. It was just being around nature right now is calling me a lot more.
Same.
And
Yes.
yeah. And I'm gonna run and grab something that I want to show that I bought in Glastonbury. I should have picked it up earlier. Give me 1 second.
Okay. And in the meantime, I will say that I'm fortunate to live in a place that is out in the boonies, kind of. It's and it's very quiet. So I totally hear what you're saying. So what did you get?
Yeah. So I actually saw this in the window and I sent Kristen a picture saying she's coming back with me. Can you see?
Yeah. Yes.
So it's basically Mother Earth.
Yeah.
So you've got the sun, the moon, and the sun and the moon, and the pregnant belly is Earth.
Oh, that's sweet.
Absolutely gorgeous.
That's
I
very
literally was
sweet.
like, and this is the thing is this is in my flat, and every time I see it now, I'm like, it just helps me slow down and connect to the oneness, just to make me more present. And yeah, so that's what every time I see it, I'm like, I need to go for a walk in the park, which isn't too far from me actually. So that's a blessing.
Well, look at this. You also have
Um,
vested in Taurus.
oh, I do. In the eighth house.
Another connection, another
And yeah, so my
similarity.
healing,
And
yeah, so
it's,
my healing
yes,
is linked
yes,
to
and you've got
nature.
it with Chiron. So, yes, exactly.
Yeah. And with the Magdalene transit over that, guess who reminded me of that?
Ah,
There we go. Astrology doesn't lie. It amazes me so much.
no, it doesn't.
Um, yeah. But yeah, just Sue, before we probably end towards closing, I know there was a question that you wanted to even ask, and I'm going to ask you first. So, in terms of the projects, have you got any projects coming up? Well, you've just mentioned it, your book
Yeah,
is what
I
you're
am
working
writing a
on.
book. That is, I actually have so many books in my head now that I've opened the dam, and seeing. So I started this by editing Eric Meyers' book
Yeah,
about the Beatles, the spiritual
yeah,
dimension of the Beatles, and it kind of gave me the idea that it is possible to do. My whole life has been about not knowing where to start,
yeah.
and doing that kind of made me gave me the I wouldn't say it's confidence, but just the knowledge of how to do things. And so
Mm,
I have all of these ideas in my head of books that I want to write, and um, I think that I probably will continue with that. And I don't know if you've noticed, but our solar return is um, very close to yours. Will probably be balsamic, but mine is just barely a new moon in Virgo.
oh, you're right, mine is balsamic
Yeah,
at the progressed, yeah, but this
yeah,
time, which makes a lot of sense to me in terms
yeah,
of my journey, because I
yes.
can feel a lot of emotional dynamics in terms of how I've related to stuff. My own journey, my own kind of creative self-actualization is shifting. And I
Ah,
feel hence there's a cycle that's closing to a new cycle that's going to begin.
beginning. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. I feel the same, and to me, I mean, it my son is in the third house, so it has to do with writing and
Yeah.
communication and things like that. So I look forward to it.
Yeah. Well, actually, my skip step with Neptune in the third house in Sagittarius, which has been ruled by actually Scorpio, is very much to do also. I feel like there is something that I need to write or communicate to the world, with that Scorpio element. With me, learning was never going to be just about fun. It had to be deep, connected to the soul, getting to the underworld,
Yes.
right into the recess. That's why stuff like the occult, we use the word occult. Not many people know I can read tarot cards.
There you go.
Um,
So,
which
something
I
we didn't
learned.
know about Rav.
You didn't, yeah. It is on my website if anybody ever wants a tarot card reading. But yeah, tarot cards always intrigue me because people used to have this, oh, they're scary and you should never get the death card and all that rubbish. Well, the death card's the best card to get. It's the card that you want. It's the card that you want. But yeah, so just that kind of stuff. And I want to I will eventually write something. I can feel it. But also, yeah, I know what you mean about that kind of focus that's coming in now. Something new is trying to emerge into our lives.
Yes. So
Uh,
what are you working on?
well, it's actually a podcast with my twin sister.
Ah,
Um, yeah, we we do have a lot to say, and we have very interesting conversations, and some of our friends have said you should be recording your conversations. So we did a practice one a few months ago, and we ended up bickering.
as
Okay, not
siblings will
bickering,
do.
but it was more constructive because we're both very strong-minded. We have Pluto in the first house, in Libra.
Mm.
We're very passionate about what we believe in, and we've had very interesting experiences individually and collectively. We've had some interesting, strange experiences together, which kind of proved to us that we weren't making stuff up. If it was just one of us, we could have been like, "Oh, did you dream this?" It was like a near death experience a very long time ago, but we were together. So stuff like that's happened in our lives where we've kind of gone, okay, this is real. Like we're not making this up, this is real. And I feel we've come as twins because we've needed that to ground each other. Because, look at all that Virgo in the 12th house. That Saturn at the cusp is needed. It's not quite at the cusp, but it's
Very
it's the
close. Yeah.
last planet before, yeah, like an 8, 9 degree old, but it's been needed. So what I'm working on is a lot of projects with her as well, because she works in computers and IT and stuff. There's an app coming
Wow.
um, that we're working on. So yeah, there is stuff in the pipeline and things. It's now. It's like you said, Sue. Once that sun moon progression moves, I feel there'll be a lot more being activated and coming up quicker. Right now, it's that balsamic phase of slowing down and processing and letting the old die for the new to emerge.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think in that phase, the the we know that there's something coming,
Mm,
and we're maybe even preparing for it
mm.
without knowing exactly what it is or how it's going to play out.
Yeah.
Mm.
But that's the faith we need to have, especially
Right.
when it's in that balsamic Pisces. It's a Piscean energy, right?
Right.
It's kind of knowing we have to dissolve something for something new to emerge. And very much right now, the transit, Neptune retrograde in Pisces, Saturn retrograde in Pisces, I really feel is such a big collective message for everyone. No matter what, transits are happening in your own chart, it's looking to the fact that we have to remember we're spiritual beings having a human experience.
Mm.
And that's the power in astrology that can show you that this journey is but a chapter in the soul book. That's how I like to see it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So, do you feel complete with our questions? Did we
Yeah, I
miss
think
anything?
no, probably, but I think we've
Yeah, we'll
I
both
think
wake up
we've
in the middle of the night and go, we
Damn, we didn't do that. So we're gonna come back and do this many more times again. I know with astrologers that will hopefully, want to connect with us. I say hopefully, I know they do want to connect with us
Yes.
and do this again. So yeah, so if anyone out there is an aspiring astrologer and you'd like to come and onto our show and just talk about yourself and just astrology in general and how life is panning out for you, we'd love to hear from you. Please do reach out to Sue or myself. I know we're both on Facebook. I'm sure Sue will provide all the links that are
All
needed.
the deets. Yep.
If you want all the deeds to connect with us. And we're going to be back very soon with another astrologer for you to get to know. But yeah, thank you for tuning in and thank you, Sue. Thank you for today. It's been so much fun.
It
Always
has
is.
been fun. And thank you for having the idea and reaching out and following through. I love it.
Resolving my skip step signature. Yes.
Yay for
Let's do
you.
this.
I love
All
it.
right, until next time. Thank you.
Bye.